Hello YouTube and welcome. My name is Mark Alexa and thank you again for joining me in this video. And in this video I will be going over and I will be explaining the differences between COPPA and GDPR-K. And why should you care, right? So, okay, first of all, let me just explain what COPPA is. COPPA is very much relevant to web developers and developers of kids websites and online services. What it is, COPPA stands for the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which was put in effect the 1998, and it's a federal law enforced by the Federal Trade Commission that regulates the online collection of personal information from children under the age of 13. COPPA applies to anybody, to any organization that collects personal information from children. COPPA instructs organizations who collect personal information from children that they post a privacy policy outlining or detailing how they collect information from a child and what they're doing with the data. Before collecting such information or such data, organizations must obtain parental or verifiable parental consent, and such consent needs to be revocable, meaning that if the parent decides to revoke such consent, the organization must give them a way to revoke it. Bear in mind that not all parental consents are acceptable by COPPA, meaning there are certain ways that are specifically instructed by COPPA. For example, the parent, they can't just type out an email and send it to your organization and call it parental consent. No, COPPA instructs that it needs to be printed out. It needs to be printed out and signed, handwritten, hand signed by the parent, and either posted via mail back to the organization, or the parent can just scan it or take a picture of it and send via email to a designated email address of the organization. Next thing you need to know, that actually you as an organization who collects the personal information about children, you need to give parents a way to review that information, the data, and if the parent wants to delete such data, you must give them a way. You must give them a means, either on the website you provide a clickable button where they can actually request deletion of such data, or you provide them with designated email address where parent can send an email and request deletion of such data. Another thing that COPPA instructs organizations to do is to retain the information about a child for only as long as necessary, meaning that if there's a clear evidence that the child hasn't used your website or your online service for a certain period of time, you are legally obligated to delete his data, to delete the child's data, right? And if you insist on keeping it, you should be able to produce a valid evidence or valid proof why you still need it. Okay, next thing you need to know, if you are an organization that collects information from children, that if you are using persistent identifiers like geolocation, cookies, or mobile device ID, to track children, in that case, that additional requirements from COPPA will apply to you, and obviously not meeting those requirements can lead to expensive fines. And now let me go over security measures that you need to have in place to comply with COPPA. First one is audit logs. You need to keep audit logs of who accessed the personal data of children, why they access it, and from where. Next one is the least privileged access, meaning that only members of staff who actually need to use the data or have access to the data to fulfill their roles, only those people should have access to it. Meaning your director of IT, he's a high profile member of staff, right? But he may not necessarily need access to the data to fulfill his role, so he doesn't need access. Next one is encryption. COPPA instructs to use end-to-end AES 256 encryption algorithm, which guarantees that the data is safe not only at rest, but also during transit. So even if somebody intercepts the data stream and captures the children's data, the data will be completely useless to the person because he doesn't have the cryptographic key. So please don't use DES or triple DES. Those algorithms are super obsolete and crackable. Use sophisticated algorithms like AES 256. And now I will briefly touch on GDPR-K. I'm saying briefly touch on because there aren't a lot of differences between GDPR-K and COPPA. Just so you know, COPPA is relevant to people in United States. So if you are based in United States, COPPA applies to you. And if you are based in Europe, yeah, GDPR-K applies to you. And bear in mind that even if you are from country or you are based in country that is in Europe, but you are not member state of European Union, the European Union will still expect you to follow GDPR-K if you are collecting data from children. So the main difference between GDPR-K and COPPA is the age of consent. COPPA states the age of consent is 13 years minimum, and GDPR-K instructs it's 16. But it gives you option to choose. It gives you option to choose whether you want minimum age of 13 or minimum age of 16. But you need to stick to it, meaning that you can't be just changing it at will, changing it as you find convenient. So in your privacy policies, you need to state if you are following the European law or if you are following the American law. But it needs to be clearly stated and you need to stick to it. Next thing I just want to mention is that there's certain exception where you can collect information or personal information from children and you don't have to follow any GDPR-K or COPPA regulations, is when you are providing consulting services directly to a child. If you are a counselor and providing services directly to a child, in that case, any privacy policies or regulations under GDPR-K does not apply to you. But that's the only exception. So now you have a good idea what are the differences between GDPR-K and COPPA and whether or not you need to actually follow it. And I certainly hope that you find it helpful, you find it useful, and this video provided you with some value. If you have any constructive criticism, if you have any feedback you would like to give me, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section down below. I will definitely find it. And until next time, bye.